pets.
Oh, no.
Yellow guy catches on and declares his love for the tree and a stick, and the butterfly tells him that's not how it works.
I was so afraid when watching this the first time that this was going to go a completely wrong way. How's it going, folks? Jack here. So I have heard your request, and today we are doing a theory reaction on the Don't Hug Me I'm Scared series. This one is of course a very old one that has been tackled by many channels, and originally I wanted to check the one by Matthew from at least MadPad. Should I be calling him, what do I call him by his normal name? MadPad from the Film Theory channel. But some of you were not exactly for it and recommended that I watch something from another channel instead. Now, I kind of understand where this is coming from. I've been watching, for example, the Game Theory channel for quite some time, and I know how some people tend to feel with his theories, or their theory. It's not just him. Some tend to consider them, some tend to consider them surface level. I kind of like them, they're fun, they're goofy. Yes, they're not always correct, but that's kind of part of the fun of it, so to keep the theorizing going. But I know how some tend to be very like McCriggy, like is high noon with this dislike button when he uploads a Five Nights at Freddy theory video, because yeah, those are a doozy. Which is funny because the FNAF movie is coming out like in 5 days or something like that. But that being said though, today I'm checking out something from the channel Nightmind, who have done an incredibly long theory on this only being the videos that I got to see and not the official series itself. So, because of the length of this video, we're going to do something a bit unconventional and split this into a two-parter. But without further ado, let us check this one out.
Welcome to Nightmind, friends.
It's an actual cat.
Thanks for joining me in the dark again this evening. Or at least, that's what I would normally say if it wasn't so bright in here.
I'm sorry, mate. Why do you have 4 eyes? I guess it's like an extra take on the middle eye tending to be the mind's eye, and I don't know. And it's a cat, so it makes it even more unsettling.
Please, excuse me if I caught you by surprise. I thought this kind of topic was special enough to warrant a physical appearance.
Oh.
Of a kind, anyway. Can't say I'll be doing this again anytime soon. Puppet mobility is not all that great. Also, I miss having eyelids. But for a topic as big as this one, I'll be happy to go without blinking for a little while.
Alrighty.
Don't hug me, I'm scared. That's not a command. It's the name of what has to be, and, for quite a while, will remain the absolute juggernaut god of creative internet horror in disguise. Everybody knows about this series, and if they don't, I imagine one of the 39 million people who have seen the first episode will tell them about it sooner or later. The absolutely massive impact a series like this has can't be understated.
7 years ago.
It's the reigning king of its field, and its place on the throne was very well earned.
Oh, not 7 years ago, 11 years ago, 12. This came out in 2011.
But how did a show about puppets in a world of felt and fabric hit this point of popularity? It's just some kind of parody of a kid's TV show, right? Only if you're just passing through. What begins as a normal setup for a televised puppet show turns into a madhouse of broken programming, twisted surrealist events, and moments of mental and emotional abuse toward our main characters. Inanimate objects will frequently come to life just minutes into the video, ready to interrupt everything and trick viewers into thinking that they're yet another magical, all-knowing item fulfilling the teacher role from kids' television shows. The lessons they teach, though similar at first to what you would often see on youth programs, quickly give way to logical fallacies, odd opinions, and even malevolent acts of... Wait,
death.
what is that?
Oh no, don't do
Hey
it.
there!
No, no.
Whoa, hold up. Wait a second there.
Pretty spiffy setup you got here, but you know what could make it better? A song!
No, please don't start singing.
I am a microphone and I help you to record. 'Cause singing is an awesome way to pass time if you're bored.
Look, this is how I feel inside.
Nope. Not dealing with it. I know exactly where that was going. And if you don't know what kind of horror we were about to deal with, you've come to the right place. Enough backstory. Let's get right into it before my desk comes to life and tries teaching us about wood grains and sawmills. The first episode of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared was uploaded on July 29, 2011 and featured our main cast seated in a small kitchen. A red monster, a young boy in bright yellow, and a duck wearing a vest. It appears to be morning as they're enjoying some tea and looking over the paper, which bears good news. Stocks are flying high and the British pound is rising in value. But before our characters can take a moment to discuss the economy, they're interrupted by a notebook on the table that flips open, revealing itself to be alive. "What's your favorite idea?" she asks. Hers is being creative, and she's here to teach us about creativity in a very direct, very specific way.
And deranged.
Our first hint of something off about this character comes the moment she's challenged about the lesson being pushed. Red Guy is not impressed by the notebook's hair. He finds her creativity boring. And instead of explaining why using her hair to express herself is great, she just repeats, "I use my hair to express myself." We then move to the window and are asked if the clouds in the sky are exciting. The characters say no, but the notebook says to take another look, and the cloud on the left immediately begins changing. With each new shape, our child character and the duck respond in perfect unison about what they're seeing. If you listen closely, you cannot pick up the voice of the red guy. He's not going along with the lesson because
On a second watch, I originally assumed that this was pareidolia, right? The whole thing of just seeing shapes. But the cloud itself is morphing and they're not guessing anything. They're not using their imagination. They're being told what to see.
Because, as before, he declared that he finds this boring. And it is a little boring to witness this cloud exercise. After all, our child character and the duck are doing basically the opposite of cloud watching.
Yeah.
What's the first idea that comes to mind when you think of this activity? Two people laying out on the grass on a bright sunny day, staring up at the sky, right? And when they spot a cloud, they share different opinions about what they see.
Which is which?
They're interpreting their own visions of the amorphous blob known as a cloud, or pointing out one they see that looks kind of like an object or animal, and maybe hearing agreement from the other person before they point out a different cloud. It's all about interpretation and opinion. But here we're shown one cloud, changing form to look exactly like the object both characters are saying it is at the same time. There's no interpretation here. The notebook is directly making that cloud into an extremely specific shape, and instead of Yellow Guy and the duck sharing opinions, they have exactly the same response, said in the same inflection, at precisely the same time, for every single shape.
Holy
Creativity
shit.
or direct manipulation in disguise.
See, this show is very clever. There are like small hints, and I'm pretty certain that some people are discovering other things to this day. But yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm already starting to side with the red guy on his opinion of all this. Next, we go from direct coaching to explicit punishment for misbehaving. The yellow guy gets really creative, embracing the lesson by painting a picture of a clown.
No.
Or not, as the notebook immediately says he needs to slow down and then destroys it. Did the notebook tell him that was creative before he made it? Of course not. So now it needs to be destroyed in as direct, slow, and explicit a manner as possible for a long, quiet moment in which we only hear the dripping of oil. The next exercise is a bit odd, but our characters go along with it. Collect some twigs and arrange them into their favorite color. The answers from Red Guy and the duck are both accepted, but when Yellow submits his, he's told that green is not a creative color. And while the clown's hair in his painting is green, the notebook seems to have made that rule up just to spite him after the clown painting incident.
And, oh man, noticing new things, the wheel chart is not even RGB. There's no green involved in there. Like, I know it's more than just that, right? But there's no green on the wheel.
The color wheel on the instructional sheet has the primary colors of red, yellow, and blue, but the other two are more obscure choices of tan and brown. The notebook is also a hypocrite. She pulls out an image of a brain that includes a green section, and in the jumping letters for Get Creative that come immediately after, we have green letters right alongside the approved colors of blue and red. Green really might be a creative color, but because the notebook needs a reason in line with her lesson to punish Yellow Guy for displaying true creativity through free will, she has to make up a rule for him to have broken that keeps her true intention hidden, keeping people subservient in performing creative actions. If the authority doesn't tell them what to do in regards to creativity, it's not actually creative. This mental abuse ramps up to 11 when our characters are told to get creative, each with their own colored table.
Oh no.
After the duck puts down a letter D, we see the original scene of the kitchen, followed by a flashing transition into a digital translation of the room. The camera rotates around as the room is deconstructed, revealing a crew filming the scene.
It's a
What we've
setup.
been witnessing is a television show. Once the camera is seated back at its original position and the room has rearranged itself, we spawn a major change.
It's an incredible perspective shift when you think about it, right? Showing how the whole thing is manufactured, and then the old change side where the red guy who was not willing to join in on the creativity is now undermined, literally, physically, by being smaller than the others.
Our yellow guy and the duck are now huge. They're much bigger than they were before the whole shift occurred. We leave the digital space and see that our puppet characters have now been replaced with people in suits wearing large heads, just like the red guy. Most viewers remember the horror show that comes next. Wild dancing beneath a floating demand to get creative, the arrival of an intense rainstorm, desecration of a heart with glitter, and the slicing open of a cake with the demand to get creative that has raw meat inside. The new actors celebrate in a group hug, the duck spells out death, and the meat from the cake is pulled through the mouse hole in the wall.
I just realized the whole thing with the duck might be a little bit of a foreshadowing of his actual death.
All throughout this, our characters have spastic fits while the notebook watches. Our original cast back in the kitchen because they're seeing this take place instead of actually doing it. The echoing scream as we fade out of the entire sequence and back to the kitchen helps confirm that it's more of a hallucination than a real event. After all, imagination is just another form of being creative, and seeing that the notebook has been guiding this entire course on being creative, it's not hard to come to the conclusion it was a forced hallucination.
But it actually
The notebook's
happened,
end
though.
statement pretty much sums up the point. Now, let's all agree to never be creative again. The horror segment works on two tracks of meaning. The first is the notebook's way of satisfying her true intention and the lesson of creativity by making the characters afraid to be creative without instruction. At no point during the hallucination was the notebook present. She was on the table, witnessing the spastic actions of the characters as they suffered the trauma of the daydream. The secondary meaning is more for us, even though we're supposed to catch the intentional manipulation of the creativity lesson as well. Let's get creative, the notebook says, and just as the puppets begin doing so, we experience the major digital shift that not only reveals we're seeing a children's TV show, but the show itself is changing. The puppets are replaced by actors, and they're shown under the instruction, get creative. We see a storm coming in, raining and striking lightning. It's now become a dark and stormy night as the new actors go nuts, and the heart the red guy holds, the heart of the show, is desecrated under all of this glitter, a creative material. The core of the show has been lost under misguided and reckless creativity using shiny, flashy garbage. The storm rages on as the new actors cut the creativity cake. It looks like Red Guy was replaced by an actor too because he claps along with Yellow, and not only is he not the clapping type, but was never on board with the creativity lesson to begin with. The meat inside the cake is extracted, the duck signals death, and the meat is fed to the mice living in the walls, who pay for it in oil during the credits. The result—
Oh, the rats. That's stealing away the creativity, the meat of the actual art away. And oil. Why oil? Oil is also used for the painting. Oh, stock exchange rising, oil, money. Right, very symbolic.
The result of all this is the death of what used to be a product of genuine creativity. The art of the show has been destroyed by higher powers on set touching it and redesigning everything. Immediately after we see it's a show, the puppets get replaced with actors and things go horribly wrong. The heart is ruined, whatever meat is made from all that misguided creativity just brings poison to the set instead, and the beautiful sunny day outside turns into the oldest cliche in the book of symbols for a very dark turn of events. A dark and stormy night. How dark does it get? Dark enough that crucial parts of the program, its heart and meat, are cut out and consumed. The show's integrity has been sacrificed for the gain of the mice that live just outside of the set, behind the wall, where they can't be seen and can't be touched. These intruders mess with the program in this video, and their misguided creativity with what had already been established ruined everything.
It's amazing what happens when you let an intruder in, isn't it?
Oh, what, again?
Let's sing about it!
No!
Doing your monologue, you sound so monotone. Wouldn't it be great if you sang instead and got a new microphone?
I'm very happy with the microphone I have. Don't come back. Anyway, yes, intruders are terrible. And the pattern of unwanted singing visitors continues in Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared Too. Our characters are seated in the living room around the TV, waiting for their show to come on.
I don't know on what note I want to put this on. Perhaps the third is the most disturbing. Like, straight up thematically speaking, because it's very on the nose with his symbolism. Thinking about it again, yeah, it's very straightforward. But this one is rather cryptic.
Day has not changed from June 19th, which is interesting, but more so is what we catch on Red Guy's side of the room. There's a cigarette on the table, and on the shelf behind him we can see the notebook. There's also an interesting picture of the 3 cast members, which we get a closer look at after this video's intruder, the clock, comes in and starts to sing. The date on here is clear enough to see. 19/6/55.
55! Oh, 1955! I did not notice that.
Method used in the United Kingdom for expressing June 19th, 1955. As we glide from this picture to an image of nothing representing the future, we see Yellow Guy's painting of the clown, a dark reminder of our first lesson on creativity.
Right.
This teacher does not mess around. When the first refusal to play along comes from the duck, proclaiming they're already clean and don't need a bath, the clock just ignores him and begins scrubbing Yellow Guy.
It's evil.
If he says it's bath time, then it's bath time. He then contradicts himself in describing time by saying it's a ruler to measure the day, and is also a merry-go-round. Time is somehow a straight line and
It's
a
not
circle.
circular.
The next refusal to play along comes from the red guy, who says they don't want to go on a journey through time. They'll miss their show. The clock's response is pretty cold.
Don't be stupid, friends!
We then go to Victorian times, where all the characters, including the clock, mention cobbles as being a staple of the era, and we even catch what seems to be a cobble store.
Yeah, I did not get the meaning of this. Like, what were they insinuating with that association of Victorian era?
There's also a nice rat meat vendor, which has to be a profitable venture judging by the rat that runs past in the background during this scene. We'll get to the subject of rats later on. Right now, let's check out this picture of our child character, the yellow guy, on a wanted poster for the price of £1,906. Again, a 19th of June reference. Apparently, all that really matters about the Victorian era to the clock is the use of cobbles and the presence of rats. We move on to an early expression of time as the enemy of life during an examination of trees and fruit which wither and die as time goes on.
Yeah.
The next part is extremely clever and very much a moment of blink and you'll miss it. The duck is putting together a house of cards as the clock is teaching, which angers him and he breaks it. There's a time and a place for mucking around, he says. And when we turn back to the duck, he's fully obedient of the clock again, giving an example of birthdays as a place to just have fun and muck around.
Oh, the ribbon, right? Where the hell did he get it from?
And the duck has been rewarded for his obedience. The scene moves by so quickly, you'll almost completely miss it if you're not watching closely.
Yeah.
There, on the duck's vest, is a prize ribbon. It certainly wasn't there before either. Take a look at the shot of the duck building his house of cards, and immediately after he's reprimanded and gets back in line with the program. The red guy joins in, mentioning camping as another fun time activity, followed by yellow guy suddenly introducing us to a new character, his father. I'm friends with my dad, he says. Notice how the camera hovers on the father's face and the sky suddenly darkens behind him after a moment, only to be light and blue again once we turn back to the red guy? Remember this. The clock then announces how time got old and turned into a mystery, and now we're in the future with tons of great gadgets and technology like a computer. Except that the clock said earlier the future doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We zoom out to catch sight of a big machine working on the brains of Red Guy and the duck. The duck is shown a screen with flashes of new technology, gadgets and gizmos he can have, and it seems he's not only stuck in place but quivering.
Kind of like how TV is trying to constantly sell you things, right? And then later on we find out that it's actually divulging the actual information that one needs with just pure and simple materialism.
He's not enjoying this experience. Yellow guy jumps in again, showing off his dad who's using a computer to look at women. A habit for him, it seems, judging by the picture he already has up on the wall.
Yeah.
We move on to the scene with the fish, which is really just to show how ridiculous the clock's lesson is getting. The notebook can be caught hiding on the nightstand in this shot, and Red Guy is holding the newspaper from earlier.
So much
Once
fish.
more, we see that it's June 19th. Back in the living room, the clock is convinced that he's properly expressed the concept of time and why it's important, but our characters begin asking questions because they really haven't learned anything. The clock is incapable of giving answers. He shrugs them off just like the notebook did when given a challenge about its lesson.
Yeah.
And speaking of the notebook, there she is again behind the red guy as we switch to his side of the room, even more visible than before. The yellow guy and the duck begin theorizing on the meaning of time and its actual mechanics, and we catch sight of this.
This part really annoyed me. Like, I understood some of the comments that were left, but I still don't understand why this association would be made. Like, you don't... He literally fled to the US to be perhaps one of his greatest allies in helping to stop the war. Yes, he was part of the Manhattan Project, but he did not straight up participate in the creation of the atom bomb. He contributed so much to world physics, but like, how would you associate him, or at least his most famous equation, with Nazism? Like, it's the kind of surface level analysis that some will, for example, do in association to, I'm using an example here that may trigger some people, okay? I'm not doing this just to be annoying. For example, within the Warhammer 40k fandom, people would tend to use, very correctly, the word fascist to describe the Imperium of Man. Now, people are going to straight up say that, oh, you know nothing about the lore as soon as you say that to describe the Imperium. Although the term itself is literal etymology, not comparing it to the regimes that would have involved them, literally means to subject yourself to all of what the Imperium demands of you, to discard the self. Is the whole idea that the group is more important than the self, like something that you can find its roots, at least in the ideology, to be all the way back in like the French Revolution era with like the Jacobin movement, right? Liberté, égalité, fraternité, with the third one being the brotherhood one being the most important. Like, we had literally, it's etymology, as I mentioned before. The word fascio means bundle of stick, monkey together strong. That's what it's all about. So yes, as a description, it is actually correct to use that term. Now, the association, however, can be wrong, and that's where people may get annoyed by it. And I guess that this is the same thing that is happening here when I'm being annoyed by a famous physicist, which is an equation that I had to derive during my first year in physics. And it takes some time, so I won't be doing it here to explain, and that would be totally unnecessary. But yeah, why I'm getting annoyed by this.
Anyone watching for the first time would have been thrown completely for a loop by the sudden appearance of a swastika as the E portion of E equals MC squared, and only after would notice the 19.6 times Y, most likely standing for year, another reference to the 19th of June. The swastika and MC squared relation is a weird way to convey a message, but its meaning is basically what the video and most videos in the series are trying to convey. E equals MC squared is the equation attributed to Albert Einstein, a German physicist who was Jewish and very much one of the Jewish Germans who fled his home at the beginning of Hitler's true rise to power.
Yeah.
Einstein was born a German, lived as a German, had a home in Germany during his adult years, and had to renounce his status as a citizen after escaping to the United States. His cottage in Germany was later turned into a camp for the Hitler Youth and several of his possessions taken by the Nazis.
Yeah.
So, if Einstein was Jewish and fled from the Nazis, why is the equation that serves as his greatest claim to fame being related to a swastika? These are opposites. It's entirely wrong to put them together. But one of the first thoughts a person might have when hearing about a brilliant German physicist who helped bring about the creation of the atomic bomb during World War II is that he was a Nazi.
Yeah.
It's just instant thought relation with no actual thinking behind it.
Yep.
Then, when you actually dig into the topic, you come to realize that's entirely backwards. The German physicist was Jewish and completely against the Nazis. But that's the first thought relation that pops up, even if it's wrong. World War II German equals Nazi, because word relation is taught so strongly between them in schools.
And again, the whole thing that a picture is worth 1,000 words, yeah? You can just show things instead of having to explain it.
That automatic assumption and its level of being so severely incorrect works for the clock as well. It's a talking clock, so it must know about time. This is the perfect professor for the topic of time.
Yep.
Except he's not. He's terrible at explaining time, dodges questions, and is abusive in his need to force-feed his views into the characters' heads using buzzwords.
That's so good. That's the same way that I tend to explain to people that despite how I look, for those of you who don't follow me on other platforms, on other social media than this, would not know this, but I have a rather muscular build, and I have helped some people in the past, like friends or acquaintances, with their fitness journey and to lose weight and stuff like that. But I am not a personal trainer. I am not straight up qualified to tell people to give them dietary advices or programs. Perhaps I can do that. I have some experience in that through bodybuilding, but like dietary, no. Okay, I can't necessarily help you to achieve your goal as you may want to because I'm not educated in that field. I might explain you something related to physics, some history, a little bit of human studies, but no, physical education is not my forte. So in that same way, visually, some may associate me as being like the trainer type, but I'm not. But yeah, that's it's a typical fallacy that we always make.
The relation of clock equaling master of time knowledge is just as foolish as World War II German equaling Nazi. The clock's lesson on time is using strings just as flimsy to make connections as those you would hear for the relation of a swastika and E equals MC squared from an uneducated person. The clock, however, feels completely correct in his teachings and shows intolerance for any thinking by the duck and yellow guy, turning on a high-pitched alarm screech that literally causes yellow guy's ears to bleed. Don't try to argue with the clock because he'll only drown you out and then use the concept of time to terrify you, just as he does with our cast, making them age at extreme speed and rot away. His arm is seen on the television rocking the duck's chair as he dies and standing behind the red guy as he succumbs to old age. We zoom out to see the duck's eye on the floor from when he rotted away, and the show ends with the red guy turning off the TV. It looks like they caught that show they wanted to watch. More evidence of the true nature of the program we're viewing.
Yeah, so this time around, there's no discussion about it. It's not an hallucination like the one with the notebook. It's actually real.
It was their show after all. So, what can we take away from this episode? Once again, 2 tracks of meaning. One in the universe of the program, and one that's explicitly for us. The process by which the clock teaches our cast is the very same the notebook used. Assault the characters with poorly explained information, reprimand them whenever they challenge their teachings, and then terrify the hell out of them as the final mark of absolute authority, even if the lessons taught are insanely wrong and completely backward, kind of like a swastika that equals MC squared and the Victorian age only being known for cobblestones.
Holy shit, this is like PragerU kids.
The audience lesson to take away is revealed at the end this time instead of in the middle. During the first video, we caught sight of the crew filming the show, which let us know it is a TV program. At the end of this video, we see the show is on the TV. The characters have just watched their own show, and a prop from beforehand, the duck's rotten eye, was left on the floor as a reminder that it happened. Yes, all of that actually did take place and it was filmed for television, in the show these characters star in and just finished watching.
Yeah.
It's not a hallucination this time. You can catch very subtle scene changes between the beginning and the end beyond the picture frame changing. The position of the cigarette next to the red guy has changed, the stack of books on the other side of him has been fixed up, and the cloud outside has moved. It might still be June 19th, but somehow this is another day or later time and the show they just watched is in the past. Why is this important? Because the show we just witnessed, with every last one of its glaring problems and horrible material, was broadcast on
Well, she just picked that little girl from daycare, so she wanted to say hi. So, back to the video.
Impressionable young people, like our yellow guy, just saw all of that.
By the way, this is the type of thing that kind of makes me want to have extra supervision on the thing that my child is going to watch in the future. Like, I in no way desire to be the type of parent that is like draconian and being on the kid's ass like, you shouldn't watch this, this is bad, this is bad. No. I don't want to do that. Obviously, there should be some supervision. You should know what your child is getting into. But yeah, when this type of deconstruction are happening, it makes me really want to do it, because let's just say that I personally grew up like in a different environment. We did not have much of the internet. Cable TV was kind of restricted to a certain extent. We had more books. By the way, growing up halfway in Africa and then moving to Europe. So there was a contrast that I could notice in comparison to my other friends when I started going to school here. So, and yes, I will of course not deny that a lot of media have affected my perception of certain things and understanding, because my noggin is filled with references. But nevertheless, a good way of avoiding these kind of things happening is just to know what your child is watching. And not just leaving them
on our
with the
tour takes us
TV open.
outside YouTube after the appearance of 2 teaser videos, promotional clips for the Kickstarter to complete the series titled Help. We
I
see
did
the
not watch
characters tied
these.
up and filmed on a camera dated 19/6/55, June 19th, 1955. Red Guy reads a ransom letter as a kidnapper stands above him with a hammer, looking like some kind of militant.
I'm sorry, this entire thing keeps on happening on the same day?
The second part has a very revealing section filming him with a phone where he says,
Money?
"Did you catch that?
Money?
Let's try it again."
Yeah?
Money. Money, money, money. And there's a gas can nearby with the same symbol seen on the flag from before. We get a sign for help, followed by a US dollar, the British pound, and the euro, another form of currency in the region of the UK, along with a question mark.
Wait. Okay. I'm gonna wild guess here. What happened in 1955? Because there was the whole thing with the price of the pounds rising. I would assume that this had, because of the whole gas thing, that this had something to do with the energy crisis. But that's all the way back in the 70s. 1973 especially, I think, where we had the, we call it Bilfri Sunday, so car-free Sunday, to minimize our use of petroleum, well, at least gasoline, because that's where, in 1948, that's where the Israeli-Arab conflicts kickstarted. That eventually led to the energy crisis. Yeah, that was a wild build-up to that. And also a bit of profiling here, because the character is dressed like a stereotypical militant that we tend to see in movies. So that's essentially what I would assume happened in the 40s or the 50s. But that doesn't quite make sense, because I can't pinpoint exactly what it is.
Most likely a stand-in for any other type of currency symbol. The Kickstarter video itself is the big score. We have our characters tied up together under the flag, decorated with that green frowning face crossed out and branded with the British pound. The 4 symbols, $, pound, euro, question mark, are in all 4 corners. The characters begin talking about their situation, with Yellow Guy asking why they're in his dad's house, although Red Guy doesn't believe that's where they are. The Duck says it smells like rats and gasoline. Gasoline because of the canister on the floor, and another reference to rats for a later discussion. Red Guy reads the ransom letter in full, stating, "If you're watching this, then we need your help. We need money. If we don't raise enough, we'll be killed off, and you'll never see us again." As the Kickstarter video plays a run-through of the show's premise and the creator's plans, we catch sight of Yellow Guy's father on the computer uploading a YouTube video called Rat Eats Egg. Once again, a reference to rats. This Kickstarter video reveals so much more than most viewers realized. First, let's start with that date. June 19th, 1955 was a Sunday in the United Kingdom, specifically the 3rd Sunday in June, which meant it was Father's
Day, yeah.
June 19th in 2011, the year of the first upload for Don't Hug Me I'm Scared, was also Father's Day. And of course, the final episode of the series, Video 6, was uploaded this year, 2016, on the 19th of June, otherwise known as Father's Day.
Coinky-dinky.
So, Father's Day? Pretty important when it comes to the series. And if the importance of that exact day for the series is specifically that it's Father's Day, what's important about the year 1955?
Yeah.
The creators could have chosen a whole lot of Sunday, June 19th occurrences, 1960, 1966, 1977, 1983, 1988, and 1994. The year 1955 was chosen for a reason. That reason has everything to do with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared being a television show.
Oh my god, I'm an idiot. We talked about this once. Well, not this, but in the America, Why America is So Stupid video. Okay. Not no offense meant with that. It's literally a video that we watched on the channel before on live during a live stream. I discussed the end of the Radio Act and its transition to the TV Act, which took place in that time, and how the bipartisanship of the media kickstarted in that time. So media became biased in the information that they shared. Okay, now we have the kids' perspective on it, I suppose.
In the 1950s, there was only one real channel on the air when it came to TV. The BBC, which was mainly a public service in partnership with the government. Operation of the BBC was funded by selling television licenses, which is similar to paying a cable provider in the US.
Then
The
came the
BBC didn't have
independence.
much to worry about in the way of paying for their existence through advertising due to selling the licenses, and so was relatively free of that issue. The government had seen commercialized television at work in the United States, and they did not want it in their home.
I see.
This all changed with the introduction of the Television Act of 1954, a law that was pushed by newly elected government officials who made it possible for there to be anything on the air besides the BBC, and for these new networks to be commercialized. The Television Act passed in Parliament and became law on July 30th, 1954, and the first new network to arrive was called Independent Television. So, while not quite June 19th, it was summer when the monopoly of the British government finally broke on television, and the
Oh, this is so good. This is making my brain jolt with so much. I love this.
The staff of ITV was hard at work getting their channel ready to launch during the summer of 1955. Their premiere broadcast was on September 22nd of that year. Shortly before launch, they put together a trailer showcasing what to expect from them. The very first spoken line in this trailer starts up at such an incredibly appropriate moment for our discussion. Watch this.
Variety, drama, features, sports, pageantry.
Commercial television is here. Among those who will bring the new programs to you are Sir John Barbirolli.
Commercial television is here, it says, just as ITV presents children's programs as part of its upcoming shows.
Yep.
What better shot could you get for reference material if you're working on a series like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared and know what kind of message you want to send? Because that's partly what it's all about. Using TV, and quite specifically, children's shows to make money, 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 just like our monstrous militant said earlier. That's why he's holding the characters for ransom. That's why his flag has 3 different symbols for currency on it and a 4th for whatever any other nation's symbol might be. That's why Red Guy's ransom note is worded the way it is. We need money. If we don't raise enough, we'll be killed off and you'll never see us again. Exactly like any television show on a commercialized network.
That is not funded by taxpayers.
We might also catch that this group either is or was hired by the same intruders behind the scenes using the notebook and talking clock to push an agenda. Take a look at the flag's face. A green circle, frowning, with a big X crossed over it.
It's not a creative
Green
color.
is not a creative color. But do we have any examples of something like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared appearing around the time of 1955 or in relation to ITV?
Don't tell me there
Actually,
is.
we do. Educating Archie was a comedy show featuring a ventriloquist dummy that was hosted on BBC Radio from June of 1950 to February 1958 on Sundays. In the year 1958, ITV produced a television series for Educating Archie, giving it an actual show for the first time.
Ventriloquist puppets are, by nature, extremely creepy to me. I cannot stand them. There's something very unnatural with their movements and all, which of course makes sense, but they are unsettling.
From the BBC, which was against full commercialization, to ITV, the first commercial network, and it's about a puppet? Seems like a pretty close hit for Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared's ancestor. And how about Billy Bean and his Funny Machine, which began broadcasting on the BBC in 1954, featuring a puppet called Billy Bean? Or The Bumbleys, a show about alien puppets who come to Earth on a mission to learn all about our planet, its children, and the fun and games and everyday adventures we all get up to.
The Bumbleys, don't they still exist? Like, I vaguely remember a show that had characters looking like them, that had like an animated show that had the aesthetics of the Mummies, but the Mummies is not British. So, yeah, never mind.
Puppets learning lessons. Where have we seen that? There was also Four Feather Falls, which premiered on February 25th, 1960 for ITV and featured mainly puppets. The Adventures of Twizzle from 1957, Lenny the Lion, Pinky and Perky, Prudence the Kitten, Sooty, Toy Town, and so many others from the era that were major shows for children using puppets. Puppets were king when it came to children's programs, especially in the wake of the Television Act, which blew the doors wide open on the possibility for youth entertainers and producers who knew them to make money by selling ad space alongside their programs. But is it all about ads as we've seen so far? How can it be if we've only experienced being sold bad ideas and mental manipulation disguised as teaching? Because that's the other side of the coin as we continue to dive into what the Freedom of the Television Act really meant with our next installment, Episode 3.
Oh no.
Still missing. Last seen on June 19th.
Oh.
Our characters are now in a position of being well and truly gone.
Now that makes more sense, the kidnapping, but they are free?
That kidnapping on Kickstarter must have been legitimate. Thankfully, our friends look relatively alright even in captivity, enjoying a nice picnic outside until the duck is irritated by a butterfly that he considers a pesky bee. Yellow Guy rough, distraught, and is approached by a new butterfly who says it's sad how much hatred there is in the world. Already, we're off on the wrong foot.
The pigeon.
Who said the duck tried to squash what he thought was a bee out of hatred? But of course, Yellow Guy just goes along with it, caught up in being approached by a little baby pigeon, as he puts it. Yet another sign that he's maybe too susceptible to all these teachers, to say it nicely. Yellow is taken on a journey to learn about love and announces that the tingly feeling he's having is actually hunger, but the butterfly isn't having any of that. No, you're lonely, he declares.
Oh,
That pesky
no.
bee is already turning out like our previous teachers. What he thinks is true, what you think is wrong, right down to your own feelings being incorrect. Back at the picnic, the duck and red guy finish their chicken and contemplate whether to go after their friend. There's a fair deal of confusion about why the duck stares at the camera for a moment without direction, but that's kind of the point. The action is no longer taking place on their planned and scheduled picnic, so the duck and red guy aren't sure what happens now because the show's programming has once again been hijacked by an intruder.
I
They
see.
know they should probably go after their friend, but these two aren't used to doing anything they aren't told to. If they were to make their own decision now, that would be creative, and they've already learned how dangerous that is.
Dangerous? You know what's
Oh,
really
no.
dangerous?
How is this microphone still?
really?
Cardboard and paper catch fire, you know. I thought you were trying to look like a pro.
Hey, leave my set alone. Don't touch that.
Look at all these air bubbles trapped in your wall. Did you have any clue what you were doing at all?
Where were we? Right. Third video. Okay.
Abduction?
The butterfly introduces Yellow Guy to his friends, all of whom say they love Yellow Guy and also love their own friends and pets.
Oh no.
Yellow Guy catches on and declares his love for the tree and the stick, and the butterfly tells him that's not how it works.
I was so afraid when watching this the first time that this was going to go a completely wrong way. But yeah, although it's still disturbing, it wasn't as dark as I would have imagined it to be.
Again, the Yellow Guy has jumped ahead in the lesson, trying to demonstrate he's not only with the program but can excel in it, and he's reprimanded for going further than the authority instructed. Of course, the butterfly contradicts himself immediately, saying Yellow Guy needs to save his love for his special one, which the unicorn agrees on, even though all these other characters just got through expressing their love for each other and not their
him.
special ones. We then hear the story of Michael, the loneliest boy in town, who was also the ugliest boy in town. Coincidence? Not in agenda-pushing films like this. Still, the characters contradict themselves by saying even Michael has a special one, even though he's living on his own underground being lonely because of his ugliness. We then steer right into territory that pushes an agenda so hard, almost anyone can catch it.
Yeah.
He's made for her.
She's made for him.
That's the way it's always been.
And it's perfect.
And it's pure.
And it's protected with a ring.
Yeah. The Christian view of it. The inescapable one that it will get battered onto your head. Like, I spoke about the whole thing of like seeing different media and how it affected my personal youth. Like, for those who will have been subscribed to the channel for a while will know that, well, I was Christian when I started making YouTube videos, and like I would genuinely always, which I still can, be quoting Bible verses, remembering all of them, because I partook in Bible studies, was a Bible teacher at some point. And so like literally when I'm making certain points during videos, it's not like I'm stating things out of hyperbole. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And the kind of like escape from fundamentalism, okay? I'm not coming and demonizing anything here, but it's just straight up from fundamentalism of like, this is the only way to do things, which is kind of a view that you need to have if you want to live an orthodox Christian life, meaning that anything outside of Bible teachings are heresy, because you don't want to live by your own interpretation or assumption of what the Lord will wish for you. You just go with what can only be truly described as programming, because again, it's a rejection of the self. It's not your thought that you are living for, it's that of the collective, the congregation's desires, as well as that of the God that you believe in, which is very topical here, since at the end of this episode they pray to a God. Man, this show is hitting in so many ways.
That's the way that old love goes.
He's made for her, and she's made for him, and that's the way it's always been. It's perfect, it's pure, it's protected with a ring, and that's the way that all love goes. Notice this portion right here with the tombstones? There's one characteristic of these that never ever had to be included for us to understand these are graves, and they're right here and right here on top of them. Christian cross, showing up just as these characters give their exact, precise statement on the rules of love, and that these rules are perfect and pure and there's no other way to love.
Yeah.
You can't get much more on the nose than this one. The video is a criticism of pro-religious teachings in children's media, going against any idea besides heterosexual relationships through drawing borderlines explicitly around that model of living as good.
But then again, we have the opposite action. On TV, that is, meaning that demonizing sometimes like people who want to live after certain traditional values. People should be, of course, allowed to do whatever they want, as long as you are not pushing your views on others and saying that they are necessarily wrong, as long as they don't harm other people. So that's usually my stand on it. So yeah, it tends to go both sides, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to point out something here relating to that, and how some people will be trying to sell materialism through the guise of like being anti-religion too. Because it goes both ways. Although the Christian one is usually the one that is more perversive.
A man and woman, a ring, and that's how it's always been and always will be. There's no other way to love, and they're not going to entertain the idea of it, because if they do, they'll upset their king, Malcolm, who they worship devoutly.
Malcolm.
How devoutly? Enough for the unicorn to put on the kind of rich scarlet, white, and gold robes that come to mind when thinking of a church.
It's just like a Monty Python when they be searching, the wise men coming and searching for Jesus, and they find Brian.
Next to the unicorn, without a word, comes Yellow Guy's father, who appears to be wearing these vestments as well. And in a group shot moments later, we see that he absolutely is. The duck is here too, and so is Red Guy, and the notebook and clock. Interesting bit about those last three. Red Guy isn't wearing any sort of vestment, while the notebook and clock, our previous intruders and mental manipulators, are wearing pure white, as if they were ministers at whatever event is taking place here.
Yeah.
The butterfly presents Yellow with a chance to start anew. All he has to do is change his name, a common religious practice during conversion ceremonies, and clean his brain, and forget anything else he's known before this. He
Born
then just
again.
needs to put on the ring, join their king, and will never be lonely again, even though he was actually just hungry the whole time. The lessons we've seen so far have been pretty clear in their meaning, but the presentation of this one is right in your face.
Yeah.
Two odd pieces of the video's ending that are constantly in question come up next. The sort of worm creature that has the shape of the butterfly without wings coming out of the egg, and the scene during the credits of Malcolm being burned. The larval butterfly will be brought up later, but as far as Malcolm burning goes, there are two groups being burned here. Organized religion with its Malcolm symbol going up in flames, and the gas canister used to set fire to the statue. You'll remember the gas canister as belonging to the group that's now in control of the show, holding the characters captive in pursuit of money. The group with the money and the power uses their resource to literally burn religion on TV, while the overt message in the program and in the video for us is the overt religious agenda being pushed.
There it is. The both side of the argument. Oh my god, I love this. I love this so much. This is so good.
Two special interest groups using a kids' TV show to push their own agendas. That's pretty much the point here. As for historical reference, we do have evidence to back up that Don't Hug Me I'm Scared is shooting pretty close to what's already come before it. In 1958, the president of the United Lutheran Church of America put forward $1 million to produce a TV show for children, which premiered in 1960 and was called Davy and Goliath, a stop-motion puppet show with overt religious messages. And it did get airtime on TV stations that didn't have a religious bend. Check out this comment on the entry for Davy and Goliath from TV.com. When I was little, we used to go to visit my aunt on the weekends. She was cool. We'd watch bowling, roller derby, and monster movies. And then this came on. Far from achieving the effect of teaching me anything, the show was actually frightening. The music was rambling and off-key, the boy and his dog seemed to wander off and nearly get killed in almost every episode, and the lesson centered around the need to absolutely obey everything you were ever told.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like my own experiences. Oh man, it's scary how often this happens.
I bet a lot of people are in therapy over this. The need
Yeah, that's why we call it deconstruction, because you need to go through many years for you accepting that the thing that happened actually happened, and not being gaslit that, oh no, this, it was a different time, it was much brighter. Because I have very fond memories of like all the happy moments because of the people, right? The people were nice, but the things that we were being taught, not so good. But guys, I think that we're gonna keep it here. We are past the half mark, and I think this is a perfect spot to shorten this episode. But thank you so much for watching. I'm super hyped for what this has in store for the rest of it, and I hope that you are willing to follow along with me. This was super fun, and yeah, I hope that you liked the episode, and of course, as always, hit that like button. Please do go and subscribe to Night Mind. Very, very awesome breakdown. I don't think that I would have caught half of the things that have been mentioned here if it wasn't for his very observant four eyes. Now, that said though, we shall have a wonderful evening. See you guys in the next one. Bye.